Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Networking Thursday. We're very glad you're with us today. It is September 28th, 2023. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those people on Zoom, please, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please enter them into the chat window. For those on Facebook, please enter your questions in the comment field, and we'd love to know where you're watching from. So if you don't mind, go ahead and open up that chat window, open up that comment field, let us know what city you're in, where you're watching from. We'd really like to know that information. Also, this is all about networking. So put in your contact information, put in your name, position you're looking for, a couple target companies, put in your LinkedIn address, and connect with everybody else who's on the call today. Let them know, send them a personal note, connect with them on LinkedIn. This is a great way to expand your connections. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon, or if you see me in person, I always have copies with me. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when the prior leader got a job. And I'll tell you about a really interesting program we have coming up tomorrow morning that you may want to catch if you have an opportunity. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Practice Interview team, which is conducting interviews, free interviews. Remember, your resume, your LinkedIn profile are not going to get you a job. What they're going to get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. Well, for every session, we've got a different speaker who talks about networking. It's just, networking primarily is all the same, but it's a little different because everybody has a little bit different angle, a little bit different thing as far as what they're doing. So today our speaker is Ford Myers. He's an award-winning career coach. He's an author. He does career coaching one-on-one. He wrote the book, Get the Job You Want, Even When No One's Hiring. This is a pre-recorded session, so if you have any questions, we'll be glad to answer those for you at the end of this session.
Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join me. My name is Ford Myers. As you can see, I speak on a lot of different career topics, but one of my favorite topics, of course, is networking. Why? Because networking is the core of your career. Before you leave this presentation today, you're going to learn just how much that's true and just how extreme the case is. When I say networking is the core of your career, I mean the core, underlined 500 times. So before we get into the content, I want to ask all of you a couple of questions. The first question I want to ask you is this. How many of you are totally comfortable with networking and feel that you have true mastery of the process? Now, you don't have to answer, you don't have to raise your hand. I'm just asking you rhetorically so that you can think about that. Think about it. How many of you are totally comfortable and feel you have real mastery with networking? On the other hand, how many of you would say you're a bit uncomfortable with networking and admit that you could benefit from learning more about it and practicing it more? So which camp do you fall into? First camp or the second camp? So let me tell you that in my opinion, networking is like breathing. You never stop doing it until you die. You're always doing it. You don't really think about it. It's just part of who you are. It's part of your normal everyday existence. If you stop breathing, you die. If you stop networking, your career dies. It's that simple. So breathing is to life as networking is to your career. I don't know any way to say it more plainly and more directly than that. Sometimes people are startled or taken aback when I say that, but I mean it 1,000%. I've been a career coach for almost 30 years, and every year and every client only reinforces this fact in my experience and in my thinking. Now, something else I like to tell clients is that networking is really not as important as you think it is. Actually, it's much more important than you think it is. So people always open their eyes real wide when I say that, until I say networking is much more important than you think it is. So everyone on the line today has a decision to make. It's really a black or white binary decision. And you need to decide today. You need to decide today. The decision is A, decide that you're perfectly okay with never achieving your career potential or creating real success. Or B, finally putting your stake in the ground and saying, okay, I'm going to learn whatever there is to learn and master networking once and for all. It's your choice. I can't make you do it. Jeff can't make you do it. It's your choice. Now, the fact that you're here today tells me that you do have at least some incentive or some motivation to learn a lot about networking and to get better at it. And I'm holding you to a higher standard. I'm saying we need to master it. We need to get to the point where you are a master networker, because that's going to open up the doors. That's going to get you the jobs. That's going to allow you to achieve your full career potential. Now, I want to mention something. Of course, we are living in a coronavirus world, right? That's pretty clear and that's pretty obvious. And it has all kinds of challenges. But one of the challenges, of course, is focused on your career. And let me tell you what is not a good approach. I've actually had people say to me, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything during this coronavirus. I'm going to sort of sit it out, see what happens, and just sit by the sidelines. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to learn anything. I'm just going to take it easy because the whole world is coming to a standstill. So what's the point? When people say that to me, I just want to slap them. That's not a good attitude. That's not the right thing to do. So, of course, we have to acknowledge that during this coronavirus era, the normal channels and methods of face-to-face networking have been disrupted. But we don't have to stop networking. Instead, we need to shift our networking to virtual channels, including email, telephone, Zoom, and all the rest. This is not a time to sit on the sidelines. This is a time to dig in and get more involved in your career management. You can maintain your existing network and you can build it even during this period. In fact, people are more receptive now to hearing from you or to actively networking than they ever were before. Why? Because a lot of them aren't as busy or as engaged in their work, number one. And number two, they all have something in common with you. There's a common bond, a common stressor, which is that we're all in this boat together. And so people get it. They have empathy. They're willing to talk much more than they ever were before because they need comfort. You need comfort. Everybody needs a little bit of support and engagement and human-to-human connection. So even though the job market might not be great right now, in some areas, it actually is very strong. In other areas, it's not, depending on your geographic area and depending on your niche or your field. But you are planting seeds for the future when you network during this coronavirus period. This means that you'll be ready for a super launch when the world opens up again completely. So do not sit by the sidelines. People say, well, what can I do during this period? It seems like everything is shut down. Look, this is physical isolation, not social isolation. You can engage on social media, invite more people to connect with you on LinkedIn, send emails, snail mail letters, cards, make phone calls. You can conduct online meetings with friends and associates. You can take or teach classes online. You can make new connections and build your database. You can look for ways to be of service to others and create ways to add value. You can do lots of things to stay top of mind with other people, even while we're in the coronavirus period. You can join and participate in online groups and forums like this one. You can share great content, whether you write it or you forward it or repurpose it. You can reconnect with people you haven't touched in a long, long time. And you can set clear networking goals and fulfill those goals on a daily basis. So what I'm saying is there's plenty of help and support. If you don't know how to do all this, reach out for help. But my God, this is an incredible time to be building your network and improving your networking skills, not sitting by the sidelines. In fact, I think it's a huge opportunity. If your work is slow or you're not working, what a great time to take classes, look at YouTube videos, get some coaching, research topics of interest to you, write articles or blogs, position yourself as an expert and thought leader so that employers and recruiters are drawn to you. There are just so many things you can do. Please don't have this attitude of sitting by the sidelines and wasting all this valuable time. Now, in every presentation I do, I always start with this graphic right here, because I think it's so important. It needs to be very clear in everyone's mind. So let me just explain what this means very briefly. On the left-hand side, you see the old reality. On the right-hand side is today's reality. On the left-hand side, what I mean is that in the old days, the focus was on your job. I'm talking about 30, 20, 40 years ago. It was about get a job, get with a good company, stay with that company. They'll take care of you. You'll get a raise every couple of years. You get a promotion every couple of years. Human resources will take care of your advancement, although in those days they called it personnel. And nobody really talked about career in those days, unless you were a doctor or a lawyer or an architect or a dentist or something. People didn't have careers, they had jobs. And they tried to get a good job and get paid as well as they could and do a good job. They just show up every day and do a good job. Career was not top of mind. It was an afterthought at best. But look, in today's reality, and for the last many years now, the whole thing has flipped over to the point where now everybody has a career. I don't care if you work at McDonald's, you have a career. You're a janitor, you have a career. People talk about their career, advancing their career, learning. And then, oh yeah, there's this little thing called job. Job these days is like a temporary assignment. It's a way station. It's a stepping stone. So it's very interesting how everything has flipped. So what does this mean? It means that the focus is on you, your shoulders. The onus is on your shoulders now to take full responsibility for career management. Personnel is not going to do it. Human resources is not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Jeff's not going to do it. You need to take full responsibility. It is human nature to become career complacent. When you have steady work that you enjoy, when you're focusing your energy on just doing a good job in the job you have, but that's not enough. Actually, today, you need 2 jobs. Everybody has 2 jobs today, 1, 2. First job is to do the job that you have and do it well. Whatever job you have, do it to the best of your ability and add value and be a great employee. But your other job is career management. Researching your field, advancing your skills, getting more training or certification, being involved in professional associations and organizations, being high visibility, high credibility in your niche, putting stuff out on social media to create your reputation as a thought leader and expert. So you thought you only had 1 job to do. Not true. You have 2 jobs to do. Your regular job and the job of managing your career. So given this reality that I've just explained to you, there's one skill that will improve your situation and prove invaluable to you now and forever. And that skill, above all others, is, of course, networking. You've probably heard this before, but even in my own experience, I can tell you that 80 to 90% of professional level positions are secured through networking. So how much of your time and energy should be devoted to networking when you're trying to get a new job or advance your career? 80 to 90%. That's a lot. I love it when people say, well, I don't like networking. It makes me uncomfortable. It's like saying, well, I don't really like breathing. You know, it's kind of annoying. I don't want to do that anymore. It's just completely absurd. If you want to work, if you want to have a career, if you want to earn a living, you cannot ignore networking. It's the most important element of all. It's like saying, I want to perform in the Olympics. I want to compete in the Olympics, but I don't really want to practice. So I'm not going to do any work. I'm just going to show up. It's just so insane. So networking is not part of your career. Networking is your career. Can I say it any more plainly than that? And you don't just do this when you're between jobs or between assignments. Networking is an attitude. It's a way of life. It's like fitness. If you know anybody who's really committed to fitness, like really committed, they don't work out of the gym for a couple months and then stop. They go for the rest of their lives. Or they walk, or they exercise, or they do calisthenics or something every day or every week for the rest of their lives. You don't brush your teeth once a month or once a year. You brush your teeth every day, probably a couple of times a day. It's a habit that you need to get into. So it's a smart career move to always be networking, no matter what's going on in your career. In general, by the way, people want to help. People do generally want to help. Of course, there are some jerks out there who won't help you and won't talk to you. I know that. But generally speaking, the majority of people will want to help, and they will support you if you ask in an appropriate and polite way. There are many reasons why people will want to network with you and help you. So networking is really a great investment in your future. It also gives you the chance to help other people where there's a mutual exchange of support and encouragement. I believe that networking is actually a lot simpler and less scary than most people think. You do not need to be a good schmoozer. You do not have to be a major extrovert. In fact, the best networkers are often the great listeners, not the great talkers. There are many books about this subject. I could name them. You can look at my book, or you can look at several other books. If you want a list of books, contact me. But the point is, this is not new. I'm just giving you a slightly different perspective on this. So here's a quiz. I've been talking at you for 10 minutes. Now we have a quiz. What are the benefits of networking? Wider influence, better information, more resources, greater political pull, stronger allies? Well, of course, the answer is all of the above. All of the above. And of course, you'll get much better results by leveraging networking if you're in the process of looking for a new job. So there are so many benefits that I could list 40 benefits. This is just 5 or 6. So the question becomes, why don't you network more? Most people admit to me they really don't do networking in an ongoing, disciplined way. They take their foot off the gas. They get complacent, or they just avoid it. Well, why? Why? When I am doing live seminars, we have a very dynamic discussion about this. And people in the audience raise their hands and they tell me all the reasons why they don't network more. I've heard them all. But they're all excuses. You know, you hear things like, well, I don't like to impose on people or take advantage. But I mean, that's just one. I could give you 20 other excuses I hear, and they're all filled with holes. These are all myths. We need to dispel all those myths, stop making excuses, and get on the bandwagon. Instead of thinking about taking from other people or taking advantage of other people, why don't you think about adding value? Why don't you think about being of service? Because I can tell you this, when my clients go out and network, whether it's on Zoom or phone or in person, I can promise you this, the other person with whom they are networking gets just as much value out of the discussion as the job seeker. That's a high bar, right? But that is the bar we have to set, that the other person gets just as much value as you do from a networking conversation. So always come from a generosity mindset. Always be in a place to give and to offer, not just to take. Now, there are many kinds of networking. The one that you're picturing in your head right now is not the only kind. We're going to talk about formal, informal, internal, external, personal, professional net weaving. It's very interesting. And one of the primary goals, of course, is that you're trying to connect with centers of influence. Sometimes you have to go through a couple people and several referrals to finally get to a real center of influence. You know, a person who has clout, a person who has connections, someone who talks and things happen. A person of influence is one who's been around a long time, has a lot of credibility. They're a leader, a recognized authority. These are the people you want to get to, but of course you may have to go through some others in order to get to those targeted folks. So let's talk briefly about formal networking. This means like the group you're in today, you know, a formal, purposeful place to go or to be online where the goal and the purpose is to network. So it's networking groups, career support organizations, alumni events, associations and industry-specific events, chambers of commerce, university-based, all these places where you can do formal networking. And it's very important to schedule these into your calendar. Every one of you should be going to at least 2 or 3 networking events per week. I realize that these days they're mostly virtual. That's fine. But we're not talking about doing this once every 6 months. We're talking about doing this 2 or 3 times a week, group networking functions and events. So the formal purpose is to network. You go, you participate, and you network, and you're prepared, and you know what to say, and you have the right material. Then there's informal, which is everything else, okay? Your friends, neighbors, community involvement, volunteering, be a board of directors, church groups, little league coaching, you know, all the places where you interact with others, but the formal purpose is not specifically to network for your career. Let me just tell you that one contact can change the course of your life and your career. So you may have lots of, you know, brick walls and wild goose chases that don't go anywhere when you are networking, but it only takes one to really have an incredible experience, and it can open doors and change the direction of your career forever. I know this because it happened to me personally when I was quite a bit younger. I completely changed careers based on one conversation. And I have many, many clients who have also had the same experience where they had, let's say, several not so great networking meetings, and then they landed on one that was a complete mind blower, a real eye opener. Well, that's a wonderful experience when that happens. Now, internal networking means getting to know the people inside your organization where you work in all levels, all departments. So don't just think out there. What about all the people who work in your own organization? Have you gone out of your way to connect with them? Do they know all about you? Have you offered to be of help or of service to them? Have you stayed in touch? Have you acknowledged their birthdays or whatever? I mean, you just have to really forge relationships. You got to build your visibility and your appeal inside the organization. If you think about this selfishly for just a moment, think about this. If you're on really good terms with the IT guy in your company, well, whose computer is going to get fixed first when a lot of computers are down? If you're really tapped into the human resources department, then whose questions about benefits are going to be answered first when they have a lot of questions? This kind of influence, this internal networking can make your life a lot easier, make things go a lot more smoothly. So it's vital to be well-known, well-liked, and well-respected within your own organization. Remember, it's not the most qualified person at your company who gets the offers, gets the jobs, gets the promotions. It's the person usually who is best networked. That's the person who gets the best opportunities. And then there's external networking. As we touched on a little bit, this is outside the organization, your city, your region, your neighborhood. Prospects, vendors, partners, trade groups, associations, civic groups. These people want to know you, and you should want to know them. You're connecting, you're making friends, you're building relationships. In other words, get out of your silo. Get out of your comfort zone. Let's really open up the floodgates. Let's get more connected and more known. This is where people usually raise their hands and say, but Ford, I'm an introvert. I say, I don't care. Get over it. You're talking to a guy right now who is such a strong introvert. I'm off the shelf. I'm off the chart. When it comes to networking, when it comes to public speaking, I am an introvert. Off the charts, I score introvert. But I also have goals, so I don't let that hold me back. And I know how to take care of myself so that if I'm extroverting a whole lot in a half of a day, I know how to take care of myself so that I can recuperate and get my energy back after the event is over. So when I say get over it, I mean get over it. This is not optional. Boy, Ford, you're really tough. You are so tough and demanding. You're a real taskmaster. Look, I'm interested in your success. I'm trying to help you. If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll get the same results you've always gotten. You might have heard that before. You've got to get outside your comfort zone and try some new behavior if you want to get different results. Now, one of the key elements is the positioning statement. We're going to talk about a couple of the key elements now. And by the way, the handout that you received, the handout, you don't necessarily have to look at it right now, but I really do want you to study it later. When you do look at that document later, you will be 1000% clear. You will say, oh, so this is what Ford meant. Oh, here are examples of what Ford was talking about. So just get the high points right now, all right, the big picture, and later, when you have time, you can study the handout and go into more detail. So the first item you need is a positioning statement. It's essentially your 15-second commercial. Some people call it your elevator pitch. I call it the positioning statement. What is it? When someone says to you, tell me about yourself, or they say, who are you professionally and why should I care? This is the statement that you'll make. It's very structured. It's very compelling. It's very brief. It's written ahead of time, carefully edited. It's memorized, and it's always on the tip of your tongue. Here's one example that you see right here in red. The goal is not to give them your whole life story. The goal is to engage them, to whet their appetite, and get them interested in potentially hearing more. If they don't want to hear more, fine, then you're not for them and they're not for you. But if they go, oh, that's interesting, tell me more about that, then you know you got one on the hook. So this is the foundation upon which you will build your other tools. Resume, one-page biography, all the other tools. And you need to really get zeroed in, learn this process, because it's the foundation of everything else in your toolkit. Then I have heard many, many people say to me, Ford, I'm busy. I don't have time for networking. I don't have time for networking. Again, that's like saying I don't have time for breathing. Well, first of all, why are you so damn busy? In other words, are you just spinning your wheels, doing busy work? Are you taking care of too much? Do you know how to delegate? Do you know how to set limits? Are you prioritizing the things you do with your time? Or are you just a machine that takes it and takes it and does it and does it and you never even come up for air? I'll tell you something, the smartest people and the people who manage their careers most effectively, they don't have time for networking because they're busy too, but they make time for networking. They make it, they build it into their schedule. They know how critically important this is. I don't care if you're the CEO of a multinational corporation or if you're flipping burgers at McDonald's. You got to make time for networking. It's the lifeblood of your entire career. So you've got to treat this like gold, like platinum. It's the most valuable part of your entire career experience. Networking is the lifeblood of your career. Make time, block it out on your calendar, literally block it out. Whether it's 2 hours a week, 4 hours a week, whatever it is, block it out on your calendar. Here are some of the general or broad networking goals. When you connect with someone through networking, we're not talking about cold calls, right? You don't call people out of the blue. We only do networking with what are called warm referrals, right? I introduce you to Jeff, Jeff introduces you to Sarah. All right, those are warm referrals. So we only do that. We only call friends of friends or associates of associates, never a cold call. So when you get that name of someone who you really want to connect with, you're going to schedule a face-to-face meeting if it's non-coronavirus time, or Zoom is fine. Phone call is okay. If they're a center of influence, you really want to get FaceTime. If it's someone lower down on the food chain or someone who's just started their career, doesn't really have influence, then you can just have a phone call or potentially do an email exchange. If you want to grow your network quickly, you'll get at least 3 to 5 new names from each person with whom you speak. So in other words, that person is not the end of the line, they are the beginning of the line. What you're doing is trying to get connected to the people they know. Be sure the other person gets just as much value as you do, as I said before. And don't forget follow-up. This is not once and done. This is not one blind date that you never call again. All right. This is ongoing, continuing dialogue, a relationship that you'll hold on to for the long term. So how many networking meetings should you have a day if you are in active job search? My clients have at least 2 networking meetings a day on business days, work days, sometimes 3. One in the morning, one in the afternoon, or maybe one even in the evening. The point is, it's every day, 5 days a week. Imagine if you did that. If you had 10 to 13 or 14 a week, can you imagine how much ground you would cover, how much traction you could build? You got to get on with this. You got to really zero in and get busy with the networking. So I said earlier that the clients go to at least 2 networking events per week. Now I'm saying you need to do at least 2 and possibly 3 one-on-one networking discussions a day on business days, especially. Now there is a whole networking agenda and process. You'll see it outlined in the handout. But I want to tell you that it is structured, it is purposeful, it's something that has been designed and developed and refined over 10, 15, 20 years. Is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect. Does it work every time? No, nothing works every time. But I can tell you with all certainty that this works better than anything else. Now, there are 3 phases of this process. If we want to divide it up into broad sections, phase 1 is the ask, A-S-K, the ask. That's where you ask for someone to network with you and schedule that networking meeting or discussion. That's the ask, that's phase 1. Phase 2 is the meet, M-E-E-T. That's where you actually have your scheduled networking appointment with the person, whether it's in person, by phone, or Zoom. And phase 3 is the follow-up, because there's always a follow-up step or more. So 3 phases, right? The ask, the do, or the meet, and the third section is the follow-up. It's not all condensed into one phone call or one meeting. It's divided into 3 distinct sections. If any of you have ever been in sales, then you know what I'm talking about. This is sales 101. You try to get the appointment with the prospect, you have the appointment with the prospect, and then you follow up with the prospect and try to close the sale, right? Right. So you'll see that there is a step-by-step process. It really works very, very well. And you'll be doing this day in and day out, over and over and over again. It'll become like second nature to you. At the beginning, it may feel a little awkward, naturally, but quickly you'll get used to it. It'll start to work. You'll start to see some success, but you really need to follow a system and a proven methodology. You don't improvise. You don't make it up on the spot. Now, all through your networking experience, you must be offering to help other people in your networking. You need to come right out and say, how can I be of help? Is there any way I can be of service to you? Please keep offering to be of help, even if they're not in a position to help you at this time, right? This is not about quid pro quo. Well, I'm not going to help him because he didn't help me. No, you are a generous person. You are here to help. You're always offering to be of service, because these people will then remember your goodwill, and what goes around comes around. Go the extra mile. Go out of your way to be of help. In the sales field, there's an old saying, which is, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will be assured of getting what you want too. Think about that. If you help enough other people get what they want, you will be assured of getting what you want too. So it starts with giving. It doesn't start with taking. Always ask how you can be of service to someone else before you ask them what you want them to do for you. There's another kind of networking which you may not have heard about. It's called net weaving. What is net weaving? Well, it's a form of networking where you facilitate the process of having other people help each other. So you connect this person to that person, even when you're not asked. You connect them because you think they can be of help to each other. They can support each other. They might be of interest to each other. They have common interests. So you don't wait around and ask for them to do it. You don't wait for them to ask you to do it. You do it proactively. Believe me, you'll get a lot of brownie points for this, and things will start to go in your favor when you become an active net weaver. So it's kind of like strategically connecting other people, putting together win-win teams. You're not looking to gain anything out of this, except long-term, you're building goodwill. What you're doing is you're becoming a strategic resource. People are now seeing you as a valued resource. And this positions you as an expert, as a thought leader, as an influential partner. Nothing could be better than that. During your networking, of course, you need to leverage technology. And there are many, many ways to do this. Many people do an e-newsletter, right? They use tools like MailChimp or Constant Contact, or they can just do it through Outlook or any other system like that. But it goes out every 3 weeks. It keeps people up to date. So let's say you've networked with 17 people over the last couple months. Okay, you don't just drop them like a stone. You need to stay in touch. How are you going to stay in touch? Keep calling every one of them individually. That gets old. Writing to them emails individually, that's too time consuming. By sending out a blast email, it's a great way to keep in touch with many, many people. And you can do this with the touch of one button. Just press one button. So there is a specific way to do this, a specific style and approach, but it's a very powerful tool. You can have a personal website. Nothing fancy, something right out of the box is fine. And what would you have on there? You would have a hello or greeting message, have your picture, put your positioning statement. You could have different tabs or links that take people to your resume, to your one-page biography, to your target company list, to a list of testimonials or endorsements, any articles you've written. See, this is very powerful. Instead of yapping and trying to explain everything about your background, you say to someone, oh, well, just go to fordmyers.com. Boom, it's all there. They will be impressed because you're leveraging technology intelligently and you don't have to spend any money to do this. A blog. For some people, a blog is a great tool, and it's a great way to get your name and your face out there as a thought leader and expert. Email, obviously. Social media. You gotta be on social media, especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the 800-pound gorilla. That is the one that we need to leverage in our professional careers. You need to engage, that's the magic word, engage with lots of other people consistently on LinkedIn. You gotta like their stuff, you gotta comment on their stuff. You gotta endorse them. You gotta write testimonials or recommendations for them and have them do the same for you. You need to post your own paragraphs or articles. You need to be engaged in different LinkedIn groups. If you don't know how to do all this, it's very simple to learn. Video conferencing, it's a great tool. It hasn't been around that long, but since we've been doing it, it's become the mainstay. It's how we're all existing these days. Why can't you set up video conferences? You can. Why can't you do presentations online? You can. So there's so many different ways that you can leverage technology. I'm asking you to raise the bar and leverage technology more than you have so far. You've got to keep your career on target. Just to review, you got to network inside the organization. You got to network outside the organization. You need to help others now. Always be asking yourself, how can I be of help to that person? How can I be of service to that person? Use and leverage technology because your network is your career success. Don't stop ever. Don't lose traction, especially during this coronavirus era. You got to step up. You got to be more creative and stand out from the crowd. You know the old saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade? This is your chance. Use the coronavirus period right now as a way to increase your skills, improve your networking, learn more skills, get out there and connect with more people. This is a huge opportunity to reconnect or connect perhaps for the first time. This really brings power to your career. This will allow you to take charge of your career and create the work you love and earn what you deserve, which sounds pretty good to me. And here's the old saying, dig your well before you're thirsty. Don't wait. Don't wait until a career crisis arises to get into gear. You got to be doing this now, proactively, always. Never be career complacent. Never stop networking. Let me give you an example. When one of my clients gets a new job, a job they really want, and we negotiate and everything's great and they're happy and I'm happy, we jump up and down and scream and celebrate. And then I say, okay, take out your calendar. They go, what? I say, take out your schedule. And they go, okay. So they take out their calendar. And I say, when are you starting your new job? They say, next Monday. Great. So open up to next Monday. Which blocks of time do you want to write down for networking? And they say, Ford, what are you talking about? I just told you I got a new job. I don't have to do this networking stuff anymore. And I say to them, have you been listening? Haven't you been listening all this time I've been working with you? And then they say, oh yeah, that's right. I get it now. So they literally block out 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour. They literally block it out on their calendar for the next 20, 30, 70, 100 weeks. And every single week, they block out time for networking. That's how important this is. Why? Because what if your job doesn't work out? What if you get canned after 3 months? You never know. You just never know. There's not much security in today's work world. The only security that you have is right here between your two ears. It's your competitiveness. It's your connectedness. That's all you have. Your knowledge, right? New education, new skills, new connections. It's got to be building and building all the time, never complacent. Here's something else that maybe you haven't thought of. The best networkers rarely have to look for a job at all. You know, when I think about the best networkers I know, opportunities are always coming to them. They don't have to go out looking for them. They don't send out resumes. They don't talk to recruiters unless the recruiter calls them first. My point is, if you don't like job search and you want to get rid of it for the rest of your career, great, then become a master networker. That's your way out of that dilemma. The goal is to be fully employed more of the time and underemployed or unemployed much less of the time. If that's your goal, as I'm sure it is, networking is your answer and it is your salvation. So dig your well before you're thirsty. Don't wait for a career crisis to arise. Now, as we wind up this presentation, I want to offer you something absolutely free, no catch, no cost, no obligation, no nothing. It's just a host of free resources that I'm thinking you will find very, very valuable. All you have to do is go to careerbookbonuses.com. That's plural, Career Book Bonuses. You don't have to do it this minute. You can go there anytime you want. And you can download a whole lot of very excellent material in addition to the handout that I gave to all of you. Also, if you want to learn more about me or my work, just go to these two websites, careerpotential.com or fordmyers.com. So I want to thank you for your time and attention. I hope that this had some interest and relevance for you. More importantly, I hope you'll take it seriously, make some important changes, and implement a lot of the strategies we've talked about here today. If you do, you'll see that everything will turn around for you and you'll get far, far better results in your career. So let me stop now and I'll turn it back to Jeff and let's see if we have any questions. Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, Ford, we do have a couple questions. The first one, let's see here from Bernie asked, do you think it's okay to network with a senior manager after you've applied for the job that they have posted, or does this hurt your chances being looked at in a negative light, or should I connect before I apply?
Well, look, the answer is it depends. If you do it very strategically, if you're politically correct, if you do it in a soft and intelligent, professional way, it can work. More importantly, if you have relationships, connections who know that person, then I would say definitely do it. So in other words, my answer is, if I don't have a direct connection or an introduction, I would be a little reluctant to do that. But if I have a connection and a relationship and a referral, then I would probably do that because it can separate me from the other candidates.
Okay. John asked, how do you ensure the contact gets as much value out of a conversation?
That's a really good question, a very important question. So here's the answer. You ask. You ask. If you're at a networking meeting or a Zoom call or a phone call, you say, so Bob, you've been so generous to spend some time with me today, and I really appreciate all this wonderful information you provided. But let me ask you, what can I do to help you? How can I be of service? I want to balance the playing field here. I want to be of as much help and value to you as you have been to me. So please tell me, what can I do for you? How can I be of service? There must be something that you need, something you want to get done. If I can help in any way, I will. Please allow me to return the favor. Now, sometimes people will say, no, that's okay, forget it. And then that's when you say, no, I really mean it. I'm not just blowing smoke. I really mean it. How can I be of service? What can I do for you? Now, sometimes they'll answer you and they'll say something like, oh, well, I was supposed to get a ride to the airport this afternoon, but the person called in sick. Can you give me a ride to the airport? Sure, no problem. Or they might say, you told me you have a master's degree in education, right? Right. Well, I'm really interested in education too, and I thought I might want to go back to school someday. Would you be willing to give me some pointers or tell me what it was like for you when you went back to school for a master's in education? I mean, it could be anything, right? They might say, wow, I love this resume you've shown me. My resume is really old and outdated. Would you take a look at it? Maybe you could make mine, help me make mine as good as yours. It could be anything, but you have to be sincere and you have to follow through. If it's not illegal or immoral, then do it.
All right. Lily asked, what would the ideal mix of weekly networking meetings be? If one attends at least 3 meetings a week, would that be okay? Is there a minimum? And then would it be good to show up at the same meetings each week, or should you try different ones every week?
Well, look, I am a member of certain organizations and I show up for every meeting because I'm active and I'm engaged and I'm part of the proceedings. But other groups, I might go to only once or twice and check them out and see what it's like. As I said during the presentation, the ideal scenario that I've learned after 30 years is have at least two one-on-one networking connections per day. And that's usually work days, but it could be a Saturday. And go to 2 to 3 group events per week. Most of them are online now, and that's fine. But whether it's online or in person, that's my answer. I hope that answers your question.
Right. David says, is it appropriate to reach out to a second-degree contact on LinkedIn that I had a job interview with through a recruiter that didn't pan out in the end? The recruiter didn't give me negative feedback other than they decided to go with another candidate that was a little bit more skilled than me.
Yes, I think that's fine. The job wasn't given to you. This is after the fact. You have nothing to lose. If they tell you to drop dead, so all right, so you didn't lose anything. All you're doing is send an invitation. By the way, make sure your LinkedIn invitations are personalized and written directly to the person. Don't use those canned, silly, generic invitations.
Great. Well, thank you very, very much. Yep, it's the same information we talk about all the time. So, all right, that is Ford's presentation. I did put the handout into the window, into the chat window, so you should be able to download it from there. If you are not able to download it, let's see here. If you're not able to download it, you can send me an email at networking@careerdfw.org, networking@careerdfw.org. Let me know you need Ford's presentation, and I will reply back and get that to you via email. But you should be able to just download it. Just click on the little 3 dots, or I think actually you don't even, that's to download the whole thing. Just to download the document. When you highlight the document, just click right there to open. Or little 3 dots pop up. You can save it. Just remember when you save it, remember where you save it at. Zoom sticks it not necessarily where you think downloads go. They stick it to a Zoom folder. So make it easy for you. All right, Career DFW Careers say we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. As I said, tomorrow morning, we've got a very interesting presentation from John Light. John is a recruiter out of the Houston area. He's got his own recruiting firm, and he's going to talk about artificial intelligence impact on recruiting. So how does he use AI to help him in his business to find you? Next Tuesday, Ruth Lipsky will be with us for LinkedIn Tuesdays to talk about how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. Next Wednesday, the practice interview team will be meeting in person. So if you want to come watch a practice interview, Christ United Methodist Church, 3101 Coit Road, southwest corner of Coit Road and Parker. Wednesday, 1 o'clock. There'll be no online session. Our next online session will be on October 11th, I think. Let's see here. Yep, the next session will be on October 11th and online. Next Thursday, being the first Thursday of the month, we're going to talk about all about effective resumes. I'll be doing the presentation, and primarily the resume is just some good basic resume format tips, and then how to get the ATS system to read it, what you need to do to make the ATS applicant tracking system read your resume. You're welcome to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups. You can join one or both. We've got over 14,900 members in the Career DFW group. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the group, but you do need to have a pretty complete profile. I do check out your profile, and if it's not mostly complete, I may deny it, because why are you on LinkedIn if you're not making it easy for somebody to reach out to you? This session has been recorded. You'll be able to go back and watch it on the Career DFW Facebook page or the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist. I have over 540 videos. This video will be up. It'll take about 3 hours for YouTube to process it and get it up there, but it will be up there. Click on the networking tab, and where you see where it says view full playlist, click there. And what you'll do is you'll look, the presentation should be in chronological order. You can go back and watch any of those at your convenience. So if you've got a friend that you want to share this tip with, you're welcome to do that there. If you're not receiving emails about our workshop, please join the Career USA mailing list. You can just scan this QR code. It'll start an email. Just hit send. You don't have to put anything in the email, or send a blank email to Career USA, +subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the tip of the day, the topic of the day, the title of the topic of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day. That way you will be able to just open the email, click on the Zoom link, and join us. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Ford was a volunteer to speak today. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 15 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Have a great Thursday afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come join us in person.